hatred of U.S.A. drives Al-Qaida recruiting. As Americans become desensitized, more violence radicalizes ordinary Arabs. The U.S.A. administration somehow rejects the idea that the war in Iraq has driven young Arab men into the arms of Al-Qaida. But if you believe the young men themselves, the administration is wrong. At a Baghdad jail for prisoners who have attacked U.S. forces, everyone, to a man, says it was the U.S. occupation of Iraq that drove them to violence. And they are not alone. Across the Middle East and South Asia, the same story can be heard in internet cafes, mosques, safe houses, and prisons. The U.S. says this war is part of the global war on terrorism. An Iraqi engineer who took part in an attack on U.S. forces said in an interview with NBC News, "But people here say that the war has increased more terror, fanaticism, and brought terrorism to Iraq." Interviews with other radicals reveal that many young men were torn when it came time to choose sides. Even though they fight alongside Al-Qaida, they insist that, contrary to what U.S. officials say, they do not support Al-Qaida. Many, in fact, say they hate Al-Qaida, but they hate the United States more. Turned against the Americans. An aggressor occupied my country, destroyed it, and made millions and millions of refugees. It is an honor to fight this, said Hamid Ali, the owner of a construction company, who also admitted attacking U.S. troops. At a government rehabilitation center in Saudi Arabia, many radicals say they now reject the Al-Qaeda philosophy. But at the same time, they admit that the U.S. occupation of Iraq drove many of them to join the movement, and that it still drives their hatred of America. Some, or many in fact, were arrested for trafficking in internet videos about Iraq designed specifically to motivate and recruit for Al-Qaeda. One of them says he was recruited over the internet, seduced by videos of Iraqis fighting America. In Zarqa, Jordan, home of the late leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, one member of the group, a 19-year-old high school dropout, told NBC News earlier this year that he was ready to carry out suicide bombings in Iraq or anywhere else he was ordered to. He, like many others in the Middle East, cannot look away from the powerful images of destruction to which many Americans have become desensitized somehow. Indeed, they say they do not want to look away from what is happening to their neighbors, their fellow Arabs and Muslims. It is often those videos that fuel the fire for these young men, nearly all of whom are educated, middle class, and skilled in using the internet to recruit for Al-Qaeda. The daily stream of images from war-torn Iraq of screaming men, women, and particularly little children, burned out cars, twisted metal, has dramatically increased the organization's pool of recruits, said Al-Qaida sympathizers in cell after cell. In the short term, or in the long term, this is all true. New York Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly expresses no doubt that the war has made his job harder. I think there's no question about it that the war in Iraq has been a catalyst. While the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks on New York and Washington were often invoked to justify the war, the police commissioner said the war has actually made New York much less safe. That's what we have to deal with, he said. We can't deal with the world as we wish it would be. That's, in our judgment, a fact, and it has made our job perhaps more challenging, much more difficult. Chasing the wrong bad guys. Bruce Riedel, a former Middle East expert with the CIA, said that the U.S.A. administration, yes, that's a four-letter, very bad word, was unable to admit that it had made mistakes, that the war had made things worse. We've got our best and brightest in the wrong desert, chasing the wrong bad guys, said Riedel, who was the National Security Council's Senior Director for Near East and North African Affairs on 9/11. We need to put our best people in South Asia, going after the man who we know is planning another attack on the U.S., perhaps a nuclear attack. That is, the war has made America less safe, he contended, by diverting so much money, so much of our intelligence effort, and so much of our special forces in the military to fighting a war in Iraq. We have diverted resources from the central battlefield in the war against Al-Qaida. St. Luke, chapter 21. Verse 6. As for these things which you behold, the days will come, in the which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what signs will there be when these things shall come to pass? And Jesus said, Take heed that you be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. And the time draws near. Go you not therefore after them. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions and troubles, be not terrified. For these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and diseases, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven.